Hello, my name is Lieutenant Justin Sherman, and I am currently stationed at the United States Coast Guard Academy. Today I'm sharing a story from one of my first patrols when I was the commanding officer of the Coast Guard Cutter Adak out in Bahrain. I had just taken command. I was going out for the first time. It was our first patrol, and one of our typical duties was to go out and we were going to escort some tanker ships. We were going to pick them up or start the transit at the Straits of Hormuz and take them up to Kuwait. And so I was the senior most commanding officer. There was another commanding officer, another ship, another 110 with us. And so we had gotten underway and we had traveled for about a day and a half to rendezvous with the large tankers that we were going to be escorting. And typical pattern of life in the Arabian Gulf is usually right around the Straits of Hormuz. You often run into small, fast vessels operated by the Iranian Navy. So these small little gunboats, and we were transiting. We'd been told we were likely to encounter them, and it was about probably 2100 local time there, and we see these two fast blips coming in on the radar, headed right towards us. We're maybe 2 or 3 miles from the ships we're going to rendezvous with, and so this was my first encounter with some not so friendly forces out on the ocean. And it was really our entire crew's first time, and so we were all pretty nervous and pretty stressed out. The other CO had been on a patrol before, so was maybe a little bit more comfortable. But as the senior lieutenant in the group at sea, I had to call all the shots and make all the calls. And for better or for worse, there was also a Navy destroyer, probably 3 or 4 miles north of us, who was also coming to assist with the transit and the escort. And I just remember thinking, this isn't my job. This is the CO of the destroyer's job to make these calls. The CO of the destroyer is a commander. They're an 05. They have had years and years and years of tactical experience, and yet the CO of the other 110 and the CO of the destroyer were looking to me to make the calls and make the shots. And meanwhile, these two fast blips on the radar are getting closer and closer. It's dark out, we can't see them, and so tensions were pretty high on the bridge. We're having a lot of conversations with one another over our secure radio comms. And I remember the other CO said to me, You've got to divert the Iranian gunboats away. You've got to drive them away by kind of leaving the group. Like you take off so that they'll follow you. And I just couldn't do that. My responsibility was to protect and support these tanker ships that were effectively defenseless. And so it may be a very bold or inexperienced lieutenant move. I called over to the commanding officer of the destroyer, and I said, Commander, I need you to go as fast as you can in the opposite direction from us to try to draw these gunboats away. They're probably more interested in a U.S. Navy destroyer than they are these two small Coast Guard 110s and these big slow tankers. And surprisingly, he rogered up to that, and it was a huge shock to me. I had just spent 2 years working with the Navy as a navigator on board a destroyer, and that was not the culture that I had experienced on board. And so it was such a shock and such a relief for this 05 in the Navy to follow this plan that I had kind of come up with on the fly. And I was I was floored and extremely relieved. I think the tension broke almost immediately. It was palpable on the bridge, which was great because we we needed that. So we see on the radar that the destroyer speeds up. We were able to track its speed. It's speeding up, and we did see that the two small gunboats did kind of turn and head towards the destroyer, which was great. And so we were able to take our defensive station off of the two tankers and begin the transit in more or less the piece that we had hoped to pick them up with, or the low stress environment that we had hoped to pick them up with. But it really taught me that in moments of extreme pressure or having to make a decision, that you've got to ask. You've got to ask for what you need, what you want in that moment. I think I was fortunate to have someone who was understanding and who at least saw the picture in the same way I did and was able to follow through with that. Thought it was a wise move. I do always wonder though, what if the 05 had come back and said absolutely not, I'm not listening to you, Lieutenant. But thankfully I didn't have to deal with that. But it was quite the interesting first patrol for me as a new commanding officer afloat out in Bahrain. But that's my sea story that I'm sharing this morning.